Tuesday, 2 p.m. Is this what must be the ROMKids Show? Hello, everyone. We are back. This is the Royal Ontario Museum's Distance Learning Initiative. I think this is like the 47th episode, so really excited to hang with y'all. Last week we did 2 shows for April break, one all about dinosaurs, which was a lot of fun. And then we also brought back our good friend, geologist Veronica DeCecco to talk about, we talked about volcanoes and exploding things and geysers and mud volcanoes. So those episodes should be up online. Remember, we're live every Tuesday from here to your kitchens or to your virtual classrooms. So hello to all of our friends. Or we're up on YouTube later in the week for, repeat viewing, on-demand viewing, as they say in the biz. On today's episode, we are talking about Earth Day. Earth Day is this Thursday. We're going to talk a little bit about climate change. We're going to talk a little bit about how plastics can be a real danger for our marine friends. And we're going to do it with our friend, ornithologist Mark Peck, back on the show for, I think, the 3rd time. So we're really excited to have him. We're going to talk all about our demonstrations in a bit. But with that said, I feel ready to do the theme song portion of the event. Here we go. Welcome to the ROMKids Show with me. We'll do some crafts and tell some stories. Let's talk about science, art, and history. Welcome to the ROMKids Show, starring you and me. There we go. That was really good. That's the theme song portion of the event. I normally have to practice that song like 5 times before we go live, but I didn't have a chance to do it today, and I did it A-okay. Moving on over to the art table. What are we doing today, friends? Miss White's class is here. Hello. Always a great friend. Asher and Ethan are here. Whoa. Big friends here. Nice to see you all. Very excited. So what are we doing today? Well, we're talking about Earth Day. We're talking about climate change. We're talking about ways that we need to take care of our planet. And one of the ways that we need to do that is by keeping our waterways safe, okay? And one of the things we'll talk about in a little bit once we introduce our good friend Mark Peck is we're going to talk about plastics and the roles that they can play in a belief that some animals think that plastic bags can be food sources. A plastic bag just like this can be a food source. And that's because look how similar plastic bags look to jellyfish. Now that's a really interesting jellyfish. It's really cool, has lots of textures and shapes going on, but there's not much difference between a plastic bag and a jellyfish. And when these plastic bags get into our waterways and make their way into our oceans, they can be really dangerous for all sorts of animals that regularly feed on plastic bags. So today what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a few things. We're also gonna do a demonstration in a bit. Is we're gonna grab yourself a clear, transparent plastic bag, or really whatever you have, grab yourself some Sharpies, and then design yourself a jellyfish all over your bag. You can even use scissors, where you can cut little lines to make all of the tentacles, and we're just gonna go with it, because jellyfish are incredibly diverse. Look at this sort of red and pink one. Look at that gorgeous jellyfish, right? They come in all different sorts of shapes and sizes, and because they sort of just float around like that, frankly, they just all look like plastic bags. We're gonna talk about that more in a bit, but you folks, we're just gonna decorate our bag, and then we're gonna do a demonstration with it in a little bit. But with that said, time to introduce back to the show, big friend of the show, Mark Peck. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, Kieran. It's great to be back. Oh. And I'm kind of looking a little weird because I've got my gloves on and my hat on because I'm practicing for Earth Day cleanup that we're going to do at the ROM here.
Earth Day is this Thursday. We're going to talk all about that. And of course, we should take care of Earth Day. Oh, what's going on? My alarm is going off right now. That's fun. There we go. I solved that emergency, an Earth Day emergency right there. We should always take care of our planet, but we're going to especially do so this Thursday. So the first thing that we're going to do with our friends right here is I want you to start designing your jellyfish. Okay, grab your Sharpies, draw all different sorts of shapes all over your jellyfish bag to create your very own. But with that, Mark Peck, climate change. I hear this word a lot, and I think it sort of dovetails with Earth Day this week. What is climate change?
Well, it's funny because climate changes all the time, especially in Ontario, where we get spring, summer, winter, and fall. But climate change in a more serious vein is all about changing patterns of weather and climate that is unusual or is increasing rapidly and changing rapidly more than we can adapt to.
Okay, and I think we hear that like climate change is a bad thing, right? So what is it about the changing climates, changing weather patterns that's so bad?
Well, the problem is we can't adapt to climate change quickly enough. So climate does change and we make adaptations for it. Birds do it, animals are able to adapt. But if it happens too rapidly, it changes everything, not only in Ontario, but around the world. And it not only changes climate, but it also makes it more unpredictable. So we get more unpredictable weather. And that's more harmful to us and more difficult for us to adapt to.
Most recently, folks might remember that incredible sort of snowstorm that happened in Texas. That's not something that's supposed to happen, and it's sort of something that happens with these changing weather patterns and these changing that come from our current like climate crisis. What are some other examples that you have that show us that climate change is happening?
Right. So we can look at climate change, and scientists have been looking at differences all sorts of different ways. So we can look at the retreating glaciers. We can look at glaciers melting and increasing the sea levels. We can look at how trees are adapting. We can look at how birds are coming back to, our migratory birds are coming back to Ontario earlier and changing their nesting patterns. And we can look at how insects are coming out earlier. And it's really hard for all of these animals to keep it all together and stay organized. So it really has a huge impact. Even our growing of our food is incredibly impacted by climate change.
Okay, you said something really interesting right there, and we had this question coming into the episode from the chat, and they wanted to know more about how birds are impacted. Is it simply because they just don't know what time of the year it is, and so they migrate earlier or sooner or things like that?
Yeah, that's part of it, but it really, birds depend on a fairly consistent climate, and they've been doing it for thousands or millions of years. So when we change the climate rapidly, birds have to adapt to that, and it takes some time. Not only that, most of our birds are migrants, so they spend their winter farther south, and then they come up north here and raise their families based on greater food availability. So if birds can't adapt or know when the food is going to be greatest, they're going to have trouble raising their young because there's not going to be food for their young. So it has a huge impact. The other thing we're seeing with birds is different species are moving farther and further north. So that's also changing things. So whatever we had here is now going to be up in North Bay or further. So things are really changing quickly, and it's a problem for a lot of things.
And I imagine that that's just birds, but that's happening with all different sorts of animals as well. Okay, I do have a question about another thing you brought up about rising temperatures. Okay, I love the warm weather. Like, I live in Toronto, so like a bunch of months of the year it's pretty cold, but like I love shorts, I love wearing like my little cap, I love spending my time outside and on the beach. I love warm weather. But what is the danger with these rising temperatures?
Well, because climate change doesn't just affect humans. I love warm weather too, but if it gets too warm, plants have trouble adapting to that and growing. We're going to have changing weather patterns, so we may get more rain or we may get less rain. And birds can't adapt to it either. If it gets too hot, the plants and animals that are adapted to this area can no longer survive in this area. So it has a huge impact on us all.
And that's really interesting because that also brings us to then animals will start moving to different places where they didn't formerly live, which then makes them an invasive species, which then upsets like that ecosystem again. So it's climate change is a ripple effect that just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, and some animals and plants can't just move whenever they feel like it. They can't adapt to it quickly enough. So those animals are either going to become endangered or potentially extinct. So it has a huge impact on not only humans, but the entire world and biodiversity in general.
We are making a jellyfish bag right here because, as we're finding out, as we will learn, plastic bags in our oceans look so much just like jellyfish, which is a popular delicacy amongst many, many different types of animals. Okay, so climate change is bad. It's destructive. It's messing with our migratory systems with birds. It's causing storms, rising waters, which then impact coastal communities. This is not good. What is causing all this climate change?
Well, in fact, it's us. Most climate change today is being caused by humans. And a lot of that has to do with industry and the use of fossil fuels. So what we need to do is figure out ways to use less fossil fuels like gas and oil and more renewable resources like solar power and electricity. So we got to get away from the gas and oil and start using more electricity.
There we go.
And sustainable renewable electricity.
There's a question in the chat right there. Thank you for answering that one. There's a lot of things that we can do, and we're going to talk more later in the episode on what we as individuals can do, what our communities can do, what governments can do, and what corporations can do. Because in order for us to protect our planet, we all need to work together to do our part. Now, we're talking about plastics on the show today as well. What is it about plastic that is such a serious issue?
Okay, so many of you may not know this, but plastics were only invented about 100 years ago.
What?
And they only really got used or started being used in the 1950s. So for many of you watching the show, that was usually when your grandparents were kids. And since 1950, we've had an explosion of different plastics being used throughout the world. There's nowhere you can go where you won't find plastics. In fact, your clothes, many of your clothes are made of plastics.
This right here, and like I'm going to use this as an example later in the episode where we talk about like, you know, reusing materials. This shirt right here, made out of plastic bottles. Weird. Okay, plastics. There's a lot of them. They're in everything. They're in my Sharpie that I'm using today. They're in our bags. They're in so many different things. Now, my understanding about plastic is it doesn't really break down.
Yeah, that's the big problem with plastic. It doesn't break down. It'll get smaller and smaller and smaller, but in doing so, it will release harmful chemicals into the environment. And so we don't have a solution on how to get rid of plastics, and we keep using it more and more.
So the way I think it's important to think about plastic, right, is maybe think about like a paper bag or something like that. Over time, that will break down and go right back into our earth, okay? Or if you have a plant, it will break down and go back into our earth, and then it can be reused again by our planet. But when you have plastic, it's not going to just break down and disappear. It just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. That's it. It doesn't disappear. It just keeps getting smaller. So if you were to like take two pieces of plastic and rub them together, over time they just breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces. Now we're going to do sort of a demonstration here. I'm going to put this aside, and we're going to do a little demonstration on what happens with when these small plastics get into our waterways, okay? So I have three small glasses of water. We've done this on the show in the past, but we're gonna do it again, but this time make it relatable to plastic. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take some toilet paper, or you're going to take some, paper towel, and you're gonna make two strips, okay? Then we're going to get yourself some, what's that called? Food coloring. And you're going to put food coloring into two of your different cups right here. Okay? So I'm going to use yellow, which is some plastic that is representing. I'm going to put it into this one. And it's going to go right into our water. Nice and colorful. And then we're going to take this blue right here, which is going to wrap another plastic that's going to go into this cup. Now imagine these cups as waterways, okay? Imagine this as river A and imagine this as river B. And then imagine your third cup as the ocean. What happens is these plastics travel through our waterways and go from riverway A right there, or waterway A, and then they also travel from our other river over here. Now, you're going to put this aside, but you can already see that the blue is traveling through our toilet paper right there, okay? Later today or tomorrow, you'll see that there's the blue and yellow in this cup right here, okay? And that's what's happening in our waterways today, right? Is plastics are coming from our communities and then straight into the oceans.
Yeah, and some of it's naturally through rivers and streams. In other cases, we actually dump a lot of our garbage in the ocean or in lakes, and we've got to stop doing that.
Oh, put this in front of the box so I can see it. Got it. Yeah, now another thing that's like sort of a pollution in our waterways too is nets, right? Like fishing nets?
Yep. Yeah, we're working on a great big new whale exhibition here at the museum. And one of the problems that we have and that whales have is fishing nets and fishing rope and lines get lost in the ocean and they become a problem. They become part of the plastic problem as well. So we have to find new solutions to use less rope, less lines, and less plastics everywhere.
So I was just showing a close-up on some of the rope that was found inside a whale. Now, I think the rest of the pictures are a bit out of our like age zone here, but this is a serious problem when nets and rope and all of these plastics, even like full cups of plastic, full jars of plastics, end up in our animals. Now, I have a question about microplastics, okay? Now, microplastics are all those really small plastics that we were talking about, that they don't disappear over time, they just keep getting smaller. I imagine that fish and other marine animals are eating other animals that might have eaten plastic or are eating plastic themselves. So does that mean that sometimes when we're eating some of these animals, we too are eating plastic?
Yeah, we are definitely eating plastics. And not only are we getting them from our food, we're also ingesting plastics from our house. So we get little microplastics, little tiny pieces of plastic in our dust. So one of the things you can do is make sure, as part of your regular weekly chores, is to make sure you vacuum around the house a little more to keep your carpets and your rugs clean.
I like that. That's another incentive to keep your place clean, is to make sure that you're not breathing in small, tiny pieces of plastic. Because this is just something that humans have not had to deal with until really, as Mark was saying, the last sort of 100 years. Now, we have to do something about this. So, Mark, my first question here is why is it important to protect our planet?
That's an easy question for me, Kieran, because this is the only planet we have. This is the planet that gives us life. It allows us to breathe. It allows us to eat. It's everything we have is right here. So we've got to do the best we can to protect our planet. It means life and death for humans.
We often talk about making plans for things, to have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, just in case the first one doesn't work out. And that means something for a lot of scenarios. However, there is no planet B. There's only this Earth. We don't have another one to go to. So we need to preserve what we have here. So, Mark, what can I do with me and my family at home?
Oh, there's so much we can all do. First of all, we can reduce, we can reuse, and we can recycle our plastic, right? Or even better, try not to use plastic. And that's difficult because plastic is everywhere. But we don't need to use single plastics like plastic wrap or straws. And a lot of companies and a lot of organizations are doing a lot of good work on reducing plastic. But we can do it at home. We can make smart choices. We can decide, you know what? I can go to a place and use a glass container to get my food. I don't have to buy plastic all the time. I can buy natural fibered clothes that don't have plastics in them. Or I can buy clothes that are recycled plastic. So there's all sorts. We can talk to the government and say, we want you to do more. We can do less traveling around. Instead of taking our car everywhere, we can get on a bike or walk around. And we can use better cleaning products in our home, which have less harmful chemicals. So lots of things that everybody can do, from kids all the way up to adults, including the government and industry as well.
So we're going to keep going on this, but some things I want to pull from here is sometimes it's okay to use plastic too. Some people need to use straws, and that's totally okay. But what we're really talking about is on like a global level, like on a really massive level, is trying to cut down on what we do use. And one way is to like use a reusable cup or container, right? Like this is my trusty, my trusty water drinking device. I don't know what that's called. A bottle. It's called a bottle, and I use a reusable bottle. All right. Using public transit is another great way to do that as well, right? And what I've found is like I love walking around too. And if just, walking to like your local restaurants, to your local places to buy local, those are great ways too. Because if you think about stuff, right? If you think about stuff, it comes from somewhere. And if it comes from far away, then it might have to go on a boat and get stuck in the Suez Canal. Or it might have to be on a plane, and all of those release CO2 emissions, right? Carbon emissions that cause sort of this global warming and cause this climate change that we're seeing. So, do when you can reduce these things. Okay, now what can I do in my local community?
Well, you can help out. There's lots you can do. You can join volunteer committees that help clean up your local community. You can look for green initiatives in your community and support them in different ways. As I said before, you can spend more time walking and riding your bike. Not only are you helping stop pollution, but you're actually getting some really great exercise. So there's all sorts of little things that we can do. We don't expect any one person to fix all of the problems, but if everybody does a little bit, it'll help get better and better all the time.
I like that. And you're an avid biker. And that's one of the things that I miss about being at the museum, especially during summer, is when I'm standing at the door welcoming all the kids at camp, as I see Mark roll in on his bike doing his part. That's always an enjoyable part of my day. Okay, Mark, what can we do in our workplaces? For like the adults that are watching, like what can we do in workplaces?
Well, it's the same thing. If you go to a workplace or you go to work, you can make sure you're using renewable or reusable bottles and coffee cups. You don't need to get plastic cups to use. You can talk to your facilities people and ask them to use safer products that are not harmful to the environment, right? You can cut down on your paper use. Most of us have computers now. You don't need to print out every document that you see. There's so many ways. And you know what? Maybe put a sweater on and use a little less heat in your building as well.
I like that. And one of the cool things that we did at the ROM where we work is we have some bottle refillers, like some bottle water fountains. So not just like a water fountain that you drink directly from, but it refills your bottles. So, try and advocate for those types of things in your workplaces. Now, we have a couple more questions, but at this point, I want to do our squid demonstration here, okay? Now, here is a picture of a plastic bag right next to a picture of not a squid, a jellyfish. And you can see how similar they look. So what I want you to do is maybe with another plastic bag, like a plastic bag that's not, that you haven't colored on and made lots of fun with. And what I would say is, like, next time you have a bath or something like that, you know, bring this in with you safely and then see just how much like a jellyfish it looks like, all right? So what I did is I cut off the end of this, but you can see, because I've already done this so it's kind of soaking wet, you can see how it has sort of like tentacles, right? It kind of looks like a jellyfish. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna put it right into a container of water, into a mason jar. And what's really interesting about jellyfish is they're kind of like translucent. You can see in between them, and when the water sort of gets into your plastic bag too, it kind of starts to look like the texture. It kind of starts to look just like the tentacles that come off of a real live jellyfish too. All right, so that's sort of what we're trying to show here with this demonstration, is a plastic bag is a plastic bag until it's in the water. And then once it's in the water, you know what it looks like? It looks like food to this sea turtle. Do you want that sea turtle to eat a plastic bag? None of us want this sea turtle to eat a plastic bag. We want that sea turtle to eat food that is nutritious and makes it feel good, not plastic that makes it feel bad. Okay, so think about that when we're using things. And so like what Mark was saying is we can also use reusable bags, all right? This bag gets used all the time, and that helps us prevent us taking plastic bags from our grocery stores too. Okay, there's lots that governments can do, right, Mark?
There are a lot that government can do, and governments are going to have to lead this project. So we have to find ways of reducing our carbon usage. That means planting more trees, using less oil, using less industrial products as we are, or make sure they are renewable and sustainable. And so they can direct us to do the right thing. They can ban single-use plastics if they want. And they are starting to do that. They just need to do it more, and they need to do it faster.
I like that. Other ways that governments can help is to fund public transit, to make bikeways in cities that are useful and safe. There's all different ways that governments can help, and we as like citizens for these countries and for these governments, whether it's local, provincial, or national, is we need to hold our government officials accountable to doing things that can help our society prosper. All right. And they can also hold corporations accountable. And my final question, Mark, for this is, what can corporations do?
Well, the same sort of thing. They can look for renewable energy sources. They can look for green initiatives within their companies to help promote sustainable use. They can reuse a lot of their material. They can do a better job thinking of ways to protect the environment rather than just taking advantage of the environment.
There you go. Okay, we're gonna do one more thing. We're gonna take our real live jellyfish, the one that we made, and we're gonna throw that into our bag too, into our water. Now it's really, really big, so it might not super fit, but we're gonna see what it looks like as well, because it has all of the colors that some type of jellyfish have, right? And so again, you can squeeze it up, and I don't know about you, but that looks satisfying to me if I'm a sea turtle. That looks delicious to me. That looks like all of the colorful parts of a jellyfish right there. Okay, so again, very, very important that we keep our plastic bags out. Now, Mark, this Thursday is Earth Day, and the ROM is doing something special. What are we doing?
We are. So the ROM really cares about the Earth, and everybody who works here wants to make sure that we have a beautiful Earth and a beautiful world going forward. So what we've decided to do is the museum is going to give all of its staff an hour off, and we're going to go out to our local parks or our neighborhoods or anywhere where it's socially safe to do so. And for our exercise on Earth Day, we're going to pick up garbage. We're going to pick up as much as we can. We're going to post it on social media, and we're going to do it safely. So it's about getting exercise, but doing something good for the environment at the same time. So what I'm going to do, and there's all sorts of different ways you can do this, I'm going to go to a local park. I'm going to put on some rubber gloves, which are actually type of plastic. I'm going to put on my mask, which has an owl on it, by the way. I'm going to wear a hat to protect myself from the sun. I'm going to put my glasses back on. And I'm going to get a pair of tongs that I use to flip my bacon or my vegetables with. I'm going to go out with a garbage bag and carefully, with my family or by myself, carefully pick up garbage and put it in the garbage bag, or pick up refuse and put it in the garbage bag. I'm not going to pick up anything that's potentially dangerous, so I'm going to leave the glass there. If I find anything else that might cut me or hurt me, I'm going to keep it off and I'll leave it alone. But I'm just going to see how much I can pick up in an hour or two and then report back to the museum at ROM Toronto and send some pictures of what I've been able to accomplish. And the fun thing is, one of our curators who I was talking about, Deb's going to go out and help by picking up or pulling out some invasive species from her neighborhood. So there's all sorts of ways you can get. You can turn your lights off. My grandmother used to drive me crazy saying, if you leave a room, turn your lights off. And it's true. It really helps. You'll save money and you'll be doing something good for the environment. And we shouldn't just do it on Earth Day, Kieran. We should do it every day. We should do a little something special every chance we get. So if you see some garbage and you've got some gloves that you can wear, pick it up, put it in the bin, and make it a little better place. And when I get home, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of this contaminated material, I'm going to put a hot soapy water in my sink, and I'm going to wash everything to make sure it's no longer contaminated. Or if I have to, I'll throw out my plastic gloves into recycling and make sure they're done safely. I'm just going to keep working, and I'm going to make it part of my daily life to think about the earth all of the time.
I really like that. Earth Day really should be every day. So this Thursday, if you can safely, with your gloves, with your mask, with only the folks in your household, see if you can do your little part to help sort of beautify, to clean up your local neighborhood. And maybe that's going to an outside space when it's not busy. Maybe that's going to just even to your backyard. You know, spaces that are safe for you and your household. And then other ways throughout the year is think about your use of plastics, okay? Ask yourself, like, what am I using and do I need to use this way? Do I need to use saran wrap or can I use something else? The other thing too that's really important to point out is that recycling is really, really important, but not everything can be recycled. So it's important to go check out your local waste wizard. I think in Toronto it's a waste wizard. I wonder what it is in other cities. But find out what is recyclable in your location. Because as well, different communities, different cities, different countries can recycle different things. And so you want to make sure that what you are putting into the recycling is something that can be put in. So for example, a plastic container, but that is like full of pizza sauce or something like that, you have to clean out the food before you can recycle it. So those are things to keep in mind, is recycling things that you can actually recycle, and look into that on your local waste wizard. Okay, and then my final thing, because we are a very progressive show, is make sure to get involved in your local communities, speak out to your government officials, and remember that you can make a difference with your pocketbook, with your wallet. Shopping with local places and shopping with places that are ethical and morally minded is a great way to use your voice. Mark Peck, another great episode in the books for us.
Kieran, you did a great job there. Thank you very much.
We hope to see it. We know our friends Asher and Ethan are going to be helping out this Thursday for Earth Day. So if you can, safely, let's help clean up our planet together.
Yeah, and get outside and enjoy nature, because that's the best way. If you love nature, you're going to help protect it.
Love it. Amazing. We'll see you again next Tuesday on the ROMKids Show live at 2 p.m. on Instagram. And of course, if we're watching you on YouTube, or you're watching us on YouTube, hello, hello, hello. Good to see you. We hope you're having a great day. Celebrate Earth Day. Bye, friends. Wear a mask. We love you.